Hey everybody, welcome back to season 3 of Contenders China. We are back here for our final game of the day. This is going to be Big Time Regal Gaming versus Restart. Now, guys, Big Time Regal Gaming, they've looked pretty strong so far. And actually, last week, I think they ended up playing something like 17 different compositions in the series they played. What makes them so flexible, and should Restart be worried about it?
A
Most
little bit,
definitely.
yeah, a little bit of a history lesson for you if this is your first season of Chinese Contenders. Back in season 2, there was a team called Moss 7 Club with a couple of these players. They had a main tank called Vanessa as well. They had different DPS, but they like to play whatever, basically. Volamel described it really well as an Imaginarium. They would constantly come up with really interesting, really strange compositions that no one else in China would run, and it was a treat every week to see what they came up with. Their week 1 performance is BTRG. Now they've rebranded and had a couple different players. Not quite living up to it entirely. They were a little bit more reasonable with some better choices, but they're still running a lot of different things. And it was a treat to watch last week. I'm excited to see what they can come up with this week against Restart as well, who seem to be struggling a little bit, slow to adapt to some of the changes other teams can come up with. So if BTRG can keep coming out with these really strange compositions like Mei defense on Hanamura or running Wrecking Ball where you don't really expect it on Lighthouse, for example, that can catch Restart off guard and give BTRG an early advantage.
They've always kind of been this very creative and cheeky is the word I would use. Whether it's, scouting the team very well back on Moss 7 Club. They scouted our good friends Lucky Future on I think it was Volskaya A. They were positioning very far forward with tanks, and they rolled out with a Bastion and actually caught them off guard and took the fight very, very cleanly, very crisply. But for the most part, BTRG, they're very flexible. They'll play creative stuff. They're kind of the embodiment of Chinese Overwatch. They play to their comfort picks. Last season they were exclusively a Mei defense on King's Row. They loved Mei defense once it became into the streets phase. Once it got off of point A, they would always swap to it. It was just an exclusive pick that they would love to play. You see them run some triple DPS. They'll swap off onto picks all over the place. And while they have lost some of those players, they still do that. But when it comes to Restart and how they deal with that, it's still kind of up in the air. They have a lot of veteran players, so they should be able to kind of sniff out some of these weird, cheesy compositions. But their record isn't looking as hot as it should. I think they've won one map out of their Land Story Cup record and their Contenders record. And it's not looking good.
Well, yeah, you say they've got some more experienced players. Vals, we were having this conversation about how this could be the redemption story for B612, who we know is free field from the Shanghai Dragons. Is he going to be able to do it?
Well, there are 3 ex-Shanghai players looking for redemption effective in this season of Contenders. We have CO, formerly known as 5 King over on Team CC. We've got B612, formerly Free Field here on Restart. And we've also got MG, who's found a new spot on Flag Gaming as a starting off tank. I'm not saying it's out of the question for B612 to find redemption, maybe pick up a couple maps and matches here. But this is a really tough group Restart have found themselves in. I can't reasonably say they're going to win any of their matches for sure. Maybe take a couple maps off Alter Ego if they're lucky, the other new team. I'm not going to say he can't redeem himself. I'm not going to say they're going to go 0-5 in this group for sure. But B612 is definitely in the hardest position of any of the ex-Shanghai players to find that redemption arc he's looking for.
Well, we'll find out for ourselves, but we are going into Lijiang Tower now, so I'm going to throw it over to our casters, I Hold Shift and Ryan Central, to take it away.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm I Hold Shift. He is Ryan Central. This is Lijiang Tower Restart in the white, Big Time Regal Gaming in the green. And we will be seeing this Pharah coming out first and foremost from Riven, who, again, was one of those players to keep an eye on here, Ryan.
And Woods has already fallen straight off the bat. Great start for Restart. Not quite par for the course, maybe it's what we're hoping, but both different compositions. Now we have a second because both Winstons have decided that the bottom of Lijiang Tower is the best place to be. Restart running a very meta composition, running this almost all-inclusive goats. They're not giving up this just yet. One's is straight back onto the point, but seems to be on his own. Big Time Regal Gaming running a normal 2-2 composition, very much anti-goats with the Sombra and the Pharah. This fight is still going on, though. Big Time Regal Gaming have the objective in their hands, though.
And it looks like finally this game is being played on the map instead of off of it, as it looked like there was about 4 or 5 different falls to the deaths happening. And yeah, still in contest, although it is 15% in counting for BTRG. And Cloud is trying to contest. He's got a little bit of support here from the D.Va, who's able to take out their counterpart. But still, the numbers are not going away for BTRG. Finally, both frontliners will fall, and Restart look to finally potentially take this down. But do they have an answer for Riven? Not able to quite get out of there in time, and that's probably going to be enough for them to get this point back in contest.
Obliterating Gudan. The one thing that this composition has for Restart is sustain. So we have to see RS being able to use this. Because the fact that Big Time Regal Gaming have a very anti-goats composition, it's not very good at sitting on a point. Sombra isn't going to stay still. Pharah isn't going to be on the ground full stop. So it puts a lot of pressure onto like the Winston and D.Va to keep contesting. Restart, everybody wants to rush onto the point together, but Effort does have this Sombra EMP ready to use it, looking for the targets.
Comes down to, can they get into the backline? You don't want to be caught in the wrong spot. They will actually get a DMP while everyone is separated from Restart, which will help take down ones, but they don't hit the juicy targets of the support, although there is the Transcendence as well as the Sound Barrier being used at the same time. Barrage will take down one. Will that be enough to get the sustain off the table for Restart? It looks like it will. Lijiang is trying to do the last bit of cleanup, and it looks like this will be a retake for Big Time Regal Gaming. The EMP was a little sloppy, but fortunately, Restart did use both support ultimates at the same time, allowing that sustain to not quite go through.
One's used the Primal Rage, was discarded, and just fed 1,000 HP worth of ult charge to Big Time Regal Gaming. So they're stacked with ults. That was not a good play. Like, that was very much... You would have thought at that point Restart was starting to be picked apart. It lasted quite a while, so that worked well for Restart that they were able to stall it out, but I think that was a big misplay from Ones that just fed so much ult charge to Big Time Regal Gaming. Saying that, B612 takes up Riven from the sky, but there's so many ultimates on the side of Big Time Regal Gaming, it's going to be tough.
And that depends. As soon as it comes down to what positioning is available, Zarya will fall off, so that is one of the ultimates to Restart off the table. Reborn looking for more, but will have to jump right on out, which is fine. They still have numbers and a couple of ultimates in case this contest does continue, which it likely will not. Rally will be popped actually for Restart, and now finally they will come through. Will they be able to get this grab up? Looking for the EMP is Effort. Will find one on the majority of the front line, which will counter out any potential grab coming out early in that fight. And the Zarya is still trying to struggle to help out from the front line, but with these numbers continuing to favor Big Time Regal Gaming, it looks like this push will be futile.
Riven can spot where Restart are coming from a distance, and Restart don't have any form of like Widowmaker or hit scan that Riven is able to just sit in the sky and not worry about any damage coming his way. So is able to rack up another barrage ready for this next punch. 93% on the point though. This graph needs to be used by Cloud sometime soon.
They do have a Transcendence as well to help sustain this push. It will be used, but very, very early. No damage is really even being funneled towards Restart's direction, so will they find any value out of it? Now, finally, the grab comes down, finds both frontliners, but the Winston bubble's good enough to keep them safe throughout it. And yeah, it's just not quite the maximum efficiency that you would have liked to have seen out of both of those ults, and now trying to counter back is BTRG. They have a couple of ultimates to potentially spend, the self-destruct being one of them, which will be left on point in lingering fashion just to clear up some space. Now recontesting. Can they get the Zenyatta back? That's the big problem, as Gundam did have him to Transcendence, but gets taken out very quickly in that fight. 99% to 63 overtime still in effect, but I just don't know if they have the numbers. Restart able to sustain themselves, even though the ultimates were used a little bit mismanagedly. They are able to keep themselves numbers-wise, but now finally the damage for BTRG comes back through, able to take down the DMAC, and now the EMP should help sustain the rest of this point fight. But as we say it, it comes down to will Riven be able to find the confirmed damage? Looking for the Lucio, will find the one last trail shot. The Winston also falling low. One's trying to stay alive, but the Transcendence that was needed earlier will finally come through for BTRG, and it looks like the numbers will be good enough for them to finalize the first point.
It's so difficult for BTRG's lineup to get quick kills quickly. That's why that fight lasted so long, but they had the pick potential and the focus to take down certain targets that you really need to dissect this composition that Restart are running. And really, Restart were able to sustain for a good portion of time, but couldn't really clear the individual heroes that amassed the composition for BTRG, if that makes sense. Like, now they're running Hammond, Wrecking Ball, and it's kind of like that, those sort of player heroes that like to work on their own a little bit. Farah up in the sky isn't really going to synergize unless you run in a Mercy, which BTRG wasn't. Sombra going to do her own thing. Now Reborn's running this Wrecking Ball. This is very much an anti-Goats comp, and Restart kind of running Goats into it. It's a bit of a mistake, but I feel it comes down to personal play as opposed to who can pick the better team. This is China, so you could have, again, Rock versus Paper and still Rock winning because this is Chinese Contenders. It depends how you use it more than anything.
It's a heavy rock into a very thin
Very
piece
heavy
of paper.
rock, not a lot of paper, yeah.
This is not what you put stationary on. We will have Deku falling first and foremost on the Regina, so we'll give numbers over to the side of BTRG, who are trying to get back onto point, although it is actually being pretty contested nicely from Restart, but not able to stay quite alive as the rest of the team, as it looks like BTRG will take this fight rather convincingly.
All of BTRG, in terms of ult charge, have made good progress, so it shows that all of the heroes are doing something. Riven, no doubt, is very high and very close to a barrage. Now we're seeing Restart switch into their own to have these Farah duels, but I think a lot of emphasis goes onto Reborn and also Liege as well, where as a Zarya, you don't really have much cover, so it's all about shielding the Wrecking Ball as he goes in, trying to get ult charge. As you see it on screen now, like Liege hasn't got a lot of weapon charge. It's going to be really difficult to generate that and find these fights now that Restart are playing quite a passive comp with this Farah.
I mean, he's playing, I think you hit it pretty nicely. He's playing pretty passively, almost as a reactionary Zarya, and now finally getting a little bit of charge over 70, now up to 80, so potential to go forward and do some damage. We'll try to get the DMAC, but won't be able to find the confirmed damage. And Transcendence was forced out, which might be a mild success for Restart, as this fight was kind of a moot point, kind of just a toggling and vying for positioning. It will still contend for the BTRG squad to keep this in their favor as far as the point goes. The barrage also going to stack around a Mercy, which will be nice for, again, keeping this point in their favor. It just comes down to, can they get these trail kills lingering on point? The self-destruct gets used and not able to find much. And yeah, both frontliners being down for Restart means that this will be easy cleanup for Reborn in the squad.
I think this is why BTRG are one of my favorite teams, or at least when they were Moss Club 7 in Season 2, one of my favorite teams to watch, because they have this way of playing in a style that almost seems like it's a skirmish, that almost are not really taking it seriously to an extent, because they're just so whimsical in their play. But they have a lot of ultimates. They use the grab. Transcendence comes out. A lot of ultimates have been dedicated by both sides, almost all of them.
Almost all of them, but still the point staying in favor and not even really being contested from Restart at the moment. Though Cloud will find himself 2 kills. Looking for the third. We'll grab it, but Riven will trade it out. And again, all of that was essentially for nothing, as the point was never really touched by Restart. A couple of last trailing kills as we're in overtime, 99%. It's just ones on point, and VAR is doing the right thing. Riven is just trying to keep everybody away as much as possible, but there will be a full contest coming in for Restart. The support line getting into the point to try to keep ones alive for as long as possible. And it looks like at this point it will be a Transcendence to help recontest for BTRG, just try to put this one away. In the Primal Rage goes once, trying to keep the support off them, and that might be enough, but Riven able to find a nice barrage for 2, and with those kills comes numbers for BTRG, and likely it will fade away, and a nice little off the ledge and back for effort just to make sure they confirm the kills, and that will be it. Lijiang going the way of BTRG.
Always the style points for BTRG. It wasn't a concrete, confident sort of finish. They managed to sort of 2-0 out, but there were a couple of areas where I think Restart could have come in and taken a couple of picks here or there. I was just pretty impressed with how BTRG seemed to control all of the space on Lijiang, especially in Night Market. They controlled both the point and the area outside of it. They used Wrecking Ball to a point where they were containing space and really making it difficult for Restart to even come out on point. It's starting to sort of have the same rhythm and rhyme of the game that we saw earlier with Zoo, especially, that they started off quite strong, but then sort of burnt out very quickly. And with any luck, the games don't go in the same direction. But I have to wonder, because I think this group, you have the top 4 teams of like Team CC, Lingen. Actually, no, that was the other group, sorry. But I think it's another sort of example of one of these teams that's been in the scene for quite some time with BTRG. Versus a team that's quite new to the scene, even though you have like B612 as a veteran player, still have a lot to prove. I think a lot of these players in this Chinese scene have a lot to come up with, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head again. You should change your profession in for being a carpenter, because you've been on point all day long with these schematics. I know, I'm flattering you now at this point, but we're going to throw back to a break and come back. We are in the same book, possibly different chapters, so we'll continue our reading when we come back just after this.
all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you, yeah, you got me. Tripping all over my shoes, yeah, I'm falling for you. Ain't nobody like you. Ain't nobody like you. When times are down, you know I'll be with you. Yeah, times are rough, this time I see it too. All this bullshit drama, I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. 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 I see you, and you see me too. We may be broke, but we see the truth. All this bullshit drama, I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there.
Welcome back, everyone. I hold Shift Ryan Central. We are going and continuing through with our third and final set of China contenders, week 2, day 1. And we will be going back to Numbani. And we saw a very stalwart defense the first time we were casting this map. And it really, again, I think that when you see these hybrid maps, it really does show the overall strengths when it comes to teams or possibly their potential gaping weaknesses. Wouldn't you say, Ryan?
I'd say so. I think coordination being a big thing, but it's also kind of a vertical map, at least to begin with. So I think it is maybe Restart wanting to force BTRG to play something that isn't tank related. But to be honest, that's kind of asking the Ocean to be incredibly unpredictable and savage. So it's if their thought process is that way, then it's going to backfire dramatically because BTRG will be like, all right, we'll just play whatever strategy. For example, they're coming out with Sombra Soldier, great for that little bit of high ground mine. So Restart looks like they're locking in like a Sombra dive with a bit of Genji. So this might be their attempt to play something that isn't tank orientated, but BTRG aren't going to be afraid of that at all.
Yeah, and my big question when it comes to BTRG defensively, you take a look at the Diva Winston maxed with a Sombra and a Soldier, it really comes down to can they get the confirmed damage quickly if they do end up diving onto those backline targets, which it looks like they will have a couple of juicy ones as there will be, it looks like a Hanzo coming into play for the side of Restart, and will they take the Symmetra out? They will, so possibly some cheeky flank ideas here with some teleportation play.
Potentially. Not quite, though. I think it
never
was
mind.
just trying to scout out ahead what Big Time Regal Gaming were running on this defense just in case they wanted to change. They decided that they want to stay on what they were playing before, so they're perfectly fine with their choices. BTRG running this composition with a Brigitte to be anti-CC, but not a lot of healing on this defense, so they have to be careful if BTRG get picked at all.
Well, especially if they can keep this Ana moving. Restart can. It looks like it will be a dive up top first and foremost. The Winston Diva will follow up with Restart. Cloud trying to find their way in. And this is my big question mark with Effort. He does not have a lot of targets, and he's only sitting at 22% so far. And the damage at least is good enough to keep them off for a small amount of time. But as the Diva goes down, we're looking at a 6v5. And that's going to open up a lot of potential for Cloud to flank. And yes, there it is. The Winston Diva dive onto the high ground just to keep BTRG off of it. And they will go right to point. So a nice little play here from Restart to get themselves on point. The hack will come out for the side of BTRG, but there's just no follow-up at the moment. And that will lead to looks to be a pretty much free capture. It will be contested very last second. But at the moment, Restart does have themselves in a pretty good spot to capitalize on some low health pulls. They will get one kill with the Mercy Sombra going down. Wow, it will be BTRG coming in clutch with that little bit of a retake just before it goes all 3 ticks.
96% and Restart dedicating EMP that effectively got nowhere. So didn't dedicate any of her ultimates. They do have stuff like self-destruct on its way up, but we're about to get both our support ultimates on the side of Restart. The Mercy's a weird pick here, I feel. Like there's not a lot of synergy that's going to work. Maybe just tying yourself onto Cloud and trying to dominate and control the high ground, low ground, being able to dive up and down. This Soldier pick came up tough for them as Effort was able to go on a flank and take control of those bits of areas. Nanabee's blade coming in though.
Oh, but does get stunned by the shield block and as well the biotic grenade, but able to slap through Gundin. So there will be at least one kill off the back end of it, but a lot of resources had to be thrown the way of Cloud. Can they come back to point and find the remaining kills? Riven is able to do a pretty decent job of getting a D-Mech and then following up on the kill on the mini Diva. So numbers will actually favor BTRG. They have a couple of ultimates for their frontliners as well if they need to use it. And it looks like Reborn has said, yes, let's go into the Primal Rage. We'll jump into his counterpart very quickly. Again, just keeping everyone off the point as it is very close to, again, being captured. But point A will still stay in that neutral state favoring BTRG's defense.
And so many ultimates dedicated for Restart too. Dragon Blade, Nano Boost, Valkyrie, Primal Rage, all for Restart to get not much else on what they had already. So really well played from Big Time Regal Gaming to only dedicate a few ultimates. Now they're going to use Rally to keep themselves up, but EMP is ready yet again for Riven. Deku wants to do a better job with his EMP than he managed to last time, kind of wasting it. So big asks, only 1 minute on the clock left for Restart to try and take first.
And they'll be able to get a big high ground EMP, but the self-destruct comes out a little bit late, so that timing is not exactly what you would call ideal. They will find Lijiang out of the mech, so an opportunity for Restart to slap on through, and it looks like Cloud will be able to do it once, but Effort makes this pick come in pretty big with a nice Helix grenade that finds a D-Mech and a kill onto ones, so that'll play nicely. And now with 40 seconds left, it will be Restart having to regroup, but it looks like they're going to get staggered just a little bit longer on the Ana, so value there. And when we look at the ultimates, again, Gundin has got himself a boost, so possibility, but Restart, again, we saw this Nano Blade come out once before. It wasn't finding a success. Did you like the targets, or did you see it go somewhere else?
I think he sort of forgot the Brigitte was a thing on this side for Restart, really. He managed to get picks, but didn't really have it much follow-up other than getting the Ana, so it's who gets that Nano Boost out first. Makes sense for Restart to put it onto Cloud. BTRG probably will put it onto Reborn on the Winston, will make more sense. Here it goes, can he have more success?
Oh, but it gets slapped and then stunned. Oh my goodness, so much counterplay from BTRG. Effort will peel back, but no one's even going to touch point in time. So goodness, another denial of the boosted blade, ending in BTRG having a successful first defense just before that 96% got all the way to 100.
Effort on Soldiers managed to put so much effort in for his team, to be fair, to just keep them on board and keep their heads above water. Especially when you have like Liege on the Diva getting demeched and alienated quite often for BTRG. That's the only realistic complaint that you can have on this defense. Now, Restart have a lot to do. It's going to be tough for them to full hold completely for 4 minutes, but certainly not impossible. They just struggled again. They put so many eggs into that Genji Nano Boost Blade basket. The EMP never really felt from Deku that it achieved much at all. There was very little follow up because of it. But then you end up in a situation, we'll just put those 3 ultimates together. And whilst it's a good strategy, it often feels that you don't want to dedicate too many ultimates to one given fight. So Restart having to dedicate. Some of these teams, you see them have to dedicate a lot of ultimates to try and go even, like twice as many ultimates to take a point or to take an engagement. But they're dedicating twice as many ultimates and still losing. So Restart really struggling to string all of this together.
You know, it's just really interesting. So I want to go back to this soldier pick. You know, initially when you looked at that defensive comp, it seemed a little bit strange that there wouldn't be enough targets for effort to really put in the work, and it looked like it didn't get its full value until late when Restart just simply seemed to ignore the soldier. He was pretty much free the entire time, and with that success coming in late with a couple of nice tac visors and of course those Helix rockets doing so much damage to the frontliners, they will take the soldier for another spin here on offense.
This is a really aggressive comp that's coming out BTRG. It's going to be taking that pitch of high ground that they're heading towards now, having the Ana and Zed being able to put there from a distance, having the Reinhardt just to protect them, but Effort really values his soldier pick, and you can start to see why. Already they've taken this high ground. Restart have to wonder, do they drop down? Do they try and rotate around? Do they just poke like this Winston is? It's a big ask for them, but slowly I think we're going to start to see BTRG move their way onto the point that Restart really struggle to get them off it.
Yeah, beautiful delay there. The biotic grenade coming out from Restart did deny a lot of healing, so they will just wait, get back to full, and then kind of come down under the point. They will be able to find Cloud early on, so without that Doomfist, you kind of look at who's going to be able to take these supports out of their comfort zone for Restart, and the answer would have to come down to the Sombra, but she's focused otherwise in different places, and a nice Helix grenade again onto ones who could not quite land those monkey paws, and that would be the first tick. The tac visor coming out early. We'll find a delayed tick onto the Diva. The second tick comes through, and it looks like it is all but over, as the 96.1% that was initially found for Restart will be matched and surpassed at a very rapid rate for BTRG.
It's like Volamil said earlier about the Team CC game, about not playing hard, playing smart, and I think we did see effort there. Even just with one flank, just finished that match by finding a pick onto B612 on the end on the high ground. He knows what he needs to do, and he's been given a lot of freedom to do it, I feel, by Restart, who didn't really know how to contest when that team was moving across with a Reinhardt onto the high ground. You saw the Winston and Doomfist poking away, but they were caught out in the open and killed because of it. So right now, not looking good for Restart. Looks like it's going to be another quick game, but we still have 2 more maps to play.
We still do, and it looks like we will. I mean, we didn't get a lot of time away from our desk, but they're so friendly and so nice to look at. We might as well bring them back in again. So, Gio, the desk, break down what you can out of those first 2 maps for us.
So friendly, so nice to look at. Guys, it's looking like for a 3rd series in a row, we're having pretty quick take by one team. Now, this may change in the latter half of this series, so I don't want to speak too soon, but let's start talking by big time Regal Gaming and how they're doing at the moment. They had a fairly quick take of Lijiang Tower. It was a bit flip-floppy on the first map, which was Gardens, but on Numbani, they pretty much managed a full hold. I mean, what's going so great for them?
It's kind of on the back of effort, right? Numbani specifically, he's quickly becoming a pain in the rear for any team that draws them to that map. Vowels said it very poignantly. It is like playing whack-a-mole. Wherever you decide to pressure the opposite side of the map, there's just a soldier that pops up about 5 seconds after the fight already starts, and he starts to absolutely turret you down. And it's so difficult to actually cover that because most of the time when it comes to Numbani attacks, you're diving all the way around that corner to that like basically where the defenders spawn at, that car, right? So all your resources are tucked away into that corner, and you just have effort pop up on the coast side of the map, just, you know, has a heyday. Just wouldn't it be nice? The Fallout 76 commercial, just shooting everybody, just not a care in the world. It's just so easy for him, and he looks great doing it too. We saw on their defense, actually on their attack, wrapping around the entire side of the map, gets the kill under the Winston. Everybody's so low because he does so much damage for this team.
Fouls.
Yeah, it was really good, great positioning from Effort, just constantly staying out of harm's way, popping up wherever Restart couldn't touch him. And it kind of was a symptom of Restart's game plan as well. Their entire Numbani offense, the win condition was we cycle EMP, we get Nano Blade, we execute and win the point off the back of that. But they never combined it properly. We were always seeing these EMPs just kind of thrown out at the end of fights, not really finding any value. So instead of comboing all your ults together, you then invest the Nano Blade without the EMP, and both times Cloud just immediately got stunned by the Brigitte, slept towards the end as well, couldn't find any value out of it. Not executing these combos properly. It may seem like a huge investment to dump your EMP and your Nano Blade into the same fight, but when your opposition support line is the Brigitte Ana, that's so much crowd control, so many ways to shut down your Nano Blade. You're not going to be able to execute those win conditions properly on their own. You need a little bit of extra help for the EMP to mean that CC isn't on the table. You can get those couple picks and then start unraveling the fight from there. And because they were trying to dump so many resources into getting these Nano Blades off and not able to actually capitalize on anything, again, it feeds back into Effort just contested on his own on the other side, able to free farm because they were so tied up in trying to actually make these Nano Blades work off on the other sides of the map.
Now, I mean, BRTG were looking really strong, and there were mistakes that Restart made, but in the first map on Lijiang Tower, the point was flip-flopping a little bit between the two teams. I mean, so Restart must have been doing something right. What was it that allowed them to be able to take the point off of BRTG?
I think there's somebody out there that will love this, and there are quite a few Shanghai Dragons fans that will love to hear me say this. But Free Feel B612 is having a game. Lijiang, I saw him majority of the time pop up in the kill feed. He actually just sniped a Pharah out of the sky, which, you know, you take that trade every day of the week. It's not even so much of a trade. It's just, you know, gimme. And he's doing really well for himself, and it's really nice to see. You know, Restart look to be finding their footing. Granted, you know, there still are some synergy issues, like Valis had said. You know, they have to understand that, yes, it's going to take you 2 or 3 fights to be able to break this Numbani A defense from BTRG, but at least you know you've capped the point and you can move on from there. Don't play so greedy. Don't try to, you know, squeak out extra use of the EMP. Just use them all together, you know, take it back to the fundamentals. But when it came to Lijiang, what I thought was really interesting was the diva-less compositions. You know, we're favoring the Pharah duels. We're favoring, you know, these kind of not oddball compositions, because I think we're trending more towards Diva being less of a must pick. She's still very good. You know, let's not get it twisted. Diva's very, very good. But when it comes to running like a pocketed McCree, when it comes to running a pocketed Pharah, when it comes to kind of allowing Reborn to run around on Wrecking Ball, that the kind of bubble bot that is Zarya is really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are getting pretty excited about the fact that Liga finally got to play Zarya and get off of Diva for the first time this season.
Yeah, we were talking so much about how much flexibility BTRG have, everyone playing all sorts of roles. Liga, unfortunately, through the last series, was just stuck on Diva duty, couldn't have any fun flexing to anything else. So yeah, it was a nice little victory to see him pulling out the Zarya, gets to finally have a little bit of variety and keep up with the rest of the team.
I mean, what about Reborn on Wrecking Ball? We don't see a Wrecking Ball on every map from every team. Some teams shy away, but he seemed to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, we saw him pull this out on Ilios Lighthouse last week as well, so he definitely knew he had this in his arsenal already. And he looked pretty good on it, pulling it out on both stages of Lijiang we went to. Able to find a lot of value, a lot of CC, so it's a lot of disruption, and it's, even when he isn't finding the direct value himself, we're seeing Restart putting so many resources in trying to deal with the Wrecking Ball that when he's off running away around the other side of the map, like on Night Market, when he's going round the outside of the point to try and regroup back with his team and everyone's chasing him, they're just exposing their back to the rest of the team. So even if Reborn isn't finding the direct value on the Wrecking Ball, he's opening up avenues and demanding so much attention from Restart that it allows Effort and Riven and even Gudon on the Zenyatta to find so much value against an exposed backline.
Yeah, I think that's you've kind of touched on something that both of you mentioned there, and that was that BRTG seemed to be showing like a lot of coordination amongst the team. For example, Volumel, I believe it was you who pointed out where Liga used his defense matrix to help cover Riven while he was barraging, and there just seems to be a lot more synergy on the side of BTRG.
Yeah, it's very odd to see Chinese off tanks actually doing very, very well. And it's not necessarily a bad odd thing. It's great to see, new talent kind of stepping up. We've seen, we've talked about Riven before. Little fun fact, he actually played last season. He changed his name. He was actually Yishin last season. So he's now played main tank, he's played flex tank, he's played flex DPS. What can't this guy play? I'd love to see this. BTRG has some players that I would love to actually see on an academy team or even in the Overwatch League. They've got some amazing talents.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what fun creative things that BTRG come up with on our next map, which will be Horizon Lunar Colony. So let's throw it back over to I Hold Shift and Ryan Central to take us through the map.
Fun and creative things makes me feel like I'm back in 3rd grade and we're getting arts and crafts time again. I Hold Shift, Ryan Central back with you. Horizon Lunar Colony will again be our assault map. And we, again, with these kind of, I won't call them superior teams kind of playing up against less superior teams, but in these kind of mismatches, we're seeing a pretty stark difference in defenses, especially with their early setups.
Only a little bit. Hopefully, we get to see past the first point of some maps. We got
Hopefully.
to on Dorado, at least with Team CC and Zoo earlier, but it still was a very quick map. I think we'll be done in a very quick time if this carries on for sure. Like, we'll be able to get some other games in, just do it all in one day, just speed run this. Like, winter games done quick for Chinese Season 3. Like, that's how it's going to be. It's only missing like a charity drive, and we pretty much got it. Big Time Regal Gaming running pretty much the exact same competition we saw Team CC running earlier. Very much this anti-dive, anti-goats really is good for parts of the map like this, where you have high ground to control and dictate. But there's still, just by confirmation, isn't going to be enough based on its own. So Restart are playing very typical goats. Hopefully we get to see them not do what Zoo did earlier, being completely torn apart and having to stall for so much time. It's all about Restart being a bit punchier with how they want to approach this, but Effort and GMZ are going to make sure that that's not going to happen.
Well, pretty good defense matrix will deny a lot of the damage that would be coming out from MZ, and now with an early pick on Naguda and a possibility of Restart to come on through and actually successfully take this point. Effort does not have a very good line of sight whatsoever. The first tick has been found on the first point, looking for the second. Finally will be contested, but the Reinhardt is there. Orisa is still not looking like they want to contest and will come down late. A big group up into the air, but just not enough damage to follow up. And it looks like Restart with the numbers will likely take this 3rd point, and they will do so. So hey, there's some success for Restart.
Straight away. I love the fact that there seemed to be a clip of GMC on the Junkrat looking at Reborn on the Orisa, both looking at each other like, do you want to go down there? Do you want to go contest?
Exactly.
They sort of sit awkwardly. Really well played from Restart. I don't know what Gudan was doing. I don't know how he was caught out, that the Brigitte was able to sort of stun him and burst him down to take the Ana out of the fight almost instantly. I don't know if he just fell from the rafters a little bit, but straight away, Restart are going to be aggressing and pushing on ahead. No ults on either side just yet. Oh no,
Effort is in a
this might be the answer.
Spot too. Redford is right behind him on the high ground. I don't know if anyone saw where he came from. The Transcendence will be popped for Restart though, as the Riptire only found the Lucio, who will be able to speed boost himself back in. He'll have a sound barrier when he gets there, and Restart is cleaning up this point. No problem. The Tracer's trying to hold on, but there is just a lack of coordination coming out of BTRG and Restart. They'll find themselves the first 2 ticks on point B, and it looks like that'll be all 3. Where was this team earlier? Goodness.
Very much unexpected. A Restart still had ultimates in the bank. It seemed that maybe this is a strategy that BTRG aren't comfortable with, but losing Gudan so early in that map just meant it was fairly easy for Restart to get the ultimates on board for the second push. They did it really cleanly in the first one. Survived GMZ's Riptire. Well, not everybody. I think it was WinWinQ that went down on the Lucio, but everybody else managed to keep alive. Transcendence was used. You get the picture. We all literally just saw it. So really well played from Restart to complete the map with only, well, just only over 6 minutes on the clock still yet to play. So big knock for BTRG, who so far have looked really good. This is the first blip that we've seen, but we know that this is a team that isn't perfect all of the time, sort of maybe a mid-tier team in this group, but certainly wanted to push ahead. This does not look good for them, though.
Restart just banked about as much time as the first 2 maps in total lasted. How about that for a pretty picture to paint? Now BTRG will get a shot, and Restart, what will they come to meet it with? It looks like a very similar setup, actually almost exactly the same as what BTRG threw at them earlier. Let's see if WinWinQ can find a better position than Gudan did earlier, as that Ana pick really was pretty divisive when it came down to that defense faltering as quickly as it is. You hit that one on the head again, and I mean, at this point, I mean, as you're looking at Restart running the same defense, I mean, when it comes down to losing that initial point or you're in contest, who are you looking at to potentially jump down and contest that point first for the defense?
I think that's the answer that BTRG didn't have. I think the Eraser wants to be one of the last, because we know that it's not so bad on this. Like, Temple of Anubis is the worst. That if you get off that pitch of high ground, you can't get back up. So, like, the Eraser has to at some point, but it was very much a attitude of nobody wanted to, therefore nobody did. So it ended up being a big waste. Just, if you're going to reset, do it quickly. Right now, Restart is just trying to keep an eye, keep BTRG in check, and they managed to get the pick up to Regal.
Yeah, I was about to say BTRG wanted to commit to going on what would be prospectively the left side ledge for them, but could not quite get everyone together, and Restart punished very nicely, able to keep them back. It was a really nice halt that was thrown out from ones, and that kept that push from moving as aggressively as BTRG wanted it. Even still, they're still pretty staggered out here. You can see these frontliners down below the high ground where Restart has positioned themselves, and Deku is keeping everybody pinned up. Has an idea that the Lucio is over there somewhere, but now wants to change focus back over to the right-hand side. We'll try to find the Brigitte. One shot will connect, and that will be enough for the charge on the ultimate of the infra site to come out, and that will give that extra bit of information. And I said shot will be taken down from Reborn, and again, an awkward position here for BTRG, just kind of staggering themselves away from where they want to be over here in the low gravity. This is not looking like the BTRG we saw earlier coordination-wise, Ryan.
It's a very BTRG thing to do, though, is to sort of go to this map and really struggle in the fashion that they are now. They're just making it worse for themselves. They're, like, literally lost in space at this point. And now, I mean, I wish I could just watch the game like this from now on. Just put some, can't remember the name of the song that's used in the situations where you have no gravity relaxing in the air kind of thing. But Restart
Something
is...
by Enya.
Yeah, I think that's the one. But BTRG just making things worse for themselves. Restart so many ultimates racked up already. BTRG seem to not even be able to really engage. They just sort of get stuck in transit, and now the Riptide's up. Doesn't get anything, so this might be a good opportunity for BTRG to push on ahead. Never mind, Lige gets taken out and isolated yet again.
I'm really lost on BTRG. I mean, you talked about it earlier when we were watching Team CC playing up against a team that didn't look like they knew what they wanted to commit to, and that's kind of the same storyline here for BTRG, as they will find a long distance shot on the deck, so they will have numbers for this point, but that Widow doesn't really find a whole lot of value on these contests anyways. Now slapping on through the Orisa, so ones will fall, and now we can find some actual devastation coming out of the point. Although, as I say that, they're able to find both supports, does Restart, and looking to recontest. And this is an interesting position, as Cloud is very close to getting another Riptide. The Transcendence is popped for Restart, and looking to contest, but not quite able to touch in time, so they will get another 5 minutes. Will BTRG to potentially put this one in a 2-2 scoreline.
BTRG have so many ultimates too, so they're ready to push on, but we have seen Restart take the wind out their sails just a little bit. Even now, like, Cloud is putting so much pressure onto Effort. It's like sort of 10 to 50 health at most, so this pace that we're going to be seeing BTRG in is going to be a lot slower. And Riptide is ready for Cloud, so if he can find more value than his last one at least, he should be good. But it's going to drop in now. It's going for a bit of a flank, looking for a target.
We'll try to jump over and above, and we'll take down Reborn, which is absolutely what you want to see. And it was a little bit of an awkward pathing as the Zarya couldn't quite track it down. But I like the call a lot to use this Riptire early. I mean, they're down in the ultimate economy. You take down Reborn, it gives your team a chance to start building up the rest of their ults. And Effort will actually be poked out from this fight as well. So more time for Restart to try to put themselves on an even foot.
I'm just impressed. Well, not even impressed, just a bit bamboozles as to why BTRG are taking their time with this. They have ultimates. They want to be able to try and properly use their Graviton, use it early because they know that they have it. They do use it and put people off the point. This Diva Bomb should find stuff.
Well, it finds the DMAC, and that will likely be about it. But BTRG will put themselves onto point, finding themselves the first tick on capture point B, looking for the second, but has to clear off ones who will be nano boosted right in the face, will be mini stunned, and that will delay some of the inevitable, which will likely follow up. Gundon and Effort will take down 2 more. With this comes vast numbers for Regal Gaming. It's just the respawn proximity that Restart has to try to put this one in their favor. They'll make some last-minute switches over to Wrecking Balls, Doomfists, and the like, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. The Transcendence will delay for a little bit longer, but Reborn at near full HP will be able to find the last little bit of damage needed, trying to get the Discord Orbs available, and yet a target prioritization is good from BTRG. They'll clean everything up, and they'll tie this one up at 2 each.
With a lot worse time, there's some of the ultimates that didn't really get to be used on the side of Restarts. They're going to be somewhat annoyed that they weren't able to get a Riptide out at the last second, but they have twice as much time almost, near enough. So now we're going to be seeing BTRG having to attack that first point again, which they'll probably hate at this rate. Restart must be still feeling pretty comfortable, but it's nice to actually finish some maps for once.
It's nice for us to see some maps go a little bit longer than we had too. I will say that much. It gives us a better picture as far as what these teams are bringing to the table. And my follow-up question was about to be, do you change anything compositionally for BTRG since that first attack was as sloppy as it was initially?
I think so, yeah. I think just as a team, they like to try out different strategies. They know kind of what Restart's going to run on this defense. I think that's the main thing. That they go, oh, they're going to run the same comp as us and try and play it this way. So let's just maybe play something a little bit more free in terms of vertical movement, which is what they've locked in. They've got the Ana to fight from a distance. It's how they control Deku. As soon as Deku went down in that fight, it seemed that BTRG had a bit more freedom to move around. But whilst it's not good for actually contesting the point, as you highlighted, you could tell that BTRG was somewhat scared of Deku, that they were completely hunkered down when they were split apart on like the second engagement, whatever it was. They wasted like a minute, just sat in rooms, kind of hoping that Deku looks away for a split second. So bit of a boogeyman to an extent, but now they're running a bit more of a free comp that's looking to basically take down Deku and the backline. Considering B612 is on Zen and Win Q is on Ana, they're very susceptible to being dove here.
And they're going to get a lot of information. Will BTRG, thanks to Effort, and it looks like, oh, what a headshot that was! MZ, sit down, see you later, my friend. Take a look at that monochromatic screen for a little bit while the rest of your team will try to push up top. Can Deku find some more of this magic? Will be jumped on and hacked, and he will not win that fight against the Sombra. So even though it was the PogChamp play, we will be moving back on a point for BTRG as they have the numbers in their favor, and Effort is making full value out of the Sombra, finding 3 straight. And that will be enough for to find at least 2 ticks, probably 3. I don't see Restart recontesting it. It will be a couple of switch-ups. The Sombra coming out, the Monkey as well for Restart defensively.
Clean. Both the supports dying very close to one another isn't ideal, but now we're starting to see restart switch, but now BTRG are changing up some stuff themselves. GMZ probably so tilted to be taken out by Deku's Widowmaker right there. Just goes, I'm going to play Brigitte, like, because, you know, that's what Steve GS mains do. If it doesn't go our way, go Brigitte. But now Deku is on the Sombra, so both teams want to dissect and pick apart the other one with these hats. Effort a bit more of a distance, trying to isolate ones on this Winston. Can't get the hack away, though. Just trying to chip away from a distance, mostly.
Well, they'll get a DMAC, which will find some value, but Ones has pressured up in the high ground in the backline as well. We'll take down Gudan, and with that kill onto that support, it likely will mean a soft reset for BTRG, especially with Reborn being taken down as well. Looks like it will be. Deku wants to try to chase for a potential kill and might have the Lucio available, but will instead just play a little bit more passively, and we'll get a hack off on the D.Va. This is more of a nuisance than anything else. The translocate will send them back towards base, and it will be BTRG coming back into this fight with a full 6.
Effort as an EMP, which is the main thing to highlight. Other than that, some big ultimates coming on BTRG. The main one, I think, being Sun Barrier. It has to be timed. Need to be careful it doesn't get caught out with an EMP. The Deku doesn't have just yet, so that's good news. I believe we do see Win Q using the Nano Boost onto, Ones there, who can't use Primal Rage, has been hacked, but still manages to dissect, take out Lige from there. But we're now starting to see picks from BTRG coming on through.
And it was a solid EMP from Effort into the backline, which allowed those kills to come into literally every single support for Restart. So now it comes down to, can they delay long enough to get some numbers back? The Discord Arts from Mugadan have been on point, and that's exactly what's happening here. The Transcendence will come through, but it's already the D.Va demacked and will be pushed on by Lige, and will be enough to take her down just near the end of what would have been a nice successful stagger. But no, it's not going to mount for anything. besides all 6 players for BTRG on the point. The Wrecking Ball won't be able to do much besides a little bit of an extra distraction, so it will be BTRG finding themselves a successful 4th point.
This is where BTRG look like a solid team. They flow like water. They like to change up their strategies, finishing off the map yet again with just under a minute, so they would get an extra bit of time. But it still restarts to lose at this point. I think that it has a lot to ask. We're now starting to see BTRG changing up their comps to something a little bit more suited to them or what we expect out of them. So Restart need to be careful with what they plan on attack. So they need to go ahead, scout out what BTRG are running on this defense and work around it, because it wasn't great for BTRG's defense. Basically, I think it boils down to Gudan not falling from the high ground and being a really nice target for Restart to take out instantly. So it's not going to be as quick this second time around. At least you'd hope for Restart.
Yeah, positionally, I think that's a mistake that's pretty apparent if you're playing that Ana. I mean, you fall very early on in the engagement, and you can see exactly, as you mentioned it, Reborn did not want to come down and touch point without having some big heals behind that Orisa shield. So we'll see if they can position themselves a little bit better this time around. MZ will look to put a more strategic trap based on the information gained from the first round, as it was under and up went Restart. We'll see if they take the same path, as they will run the exact same comp.
It worked well for them last time. I think the main focus is that Gudan needs to be careful. Buff supports need to be careful, because there's not a lot of output of healing other than the Ana on this defense, and it can both be susceptible to being picked. Movement Q going down, so already a pretty good start for the rest of BTRG. I honestly was worried that it was going to happen again when I saw someone light up and he killed them so quickly, but now already GMZ is well on his way to getting a Riptide, doing what a Junkrat does best in this comp.
Very smooth, BTRG. Every time I see teams get funneled over there where Restart was, it reminds me of that scene from Inglourious Bastards, where you never want to fight in a basement, and that's exactly what that room feels like. It's so small, you got nowhere to go, and that's exactly the scenario that we saw unfold in front of us. Restart just getting absolutely picked apart as soon as the Lucio fell, and there will be a couple of switches, the Tracer most notably coming out for Restart this time around.
Yeah, and they need to up the tempo. I always think of it like the Daredevil one-shot corridor scenes that happen, so... But with a Junkrat, it's over a lot quicker. But Restart did a really good job to make sure that they just reset quickly. They didn't waste as much time as Zoo did on their attack. But already, Cloud taken apart. BTRG are going to be able to rinse out like 5 minutes still left on the clock. But Restart need to be a bit more clinical. They were given the first point last time. Let's see what they do when they have to try and work it out themselves.
For me, it kind of comes down for Restart. Again, who's going to follow up with this Diva Winston? Again, they can't really sustainably dive, because all you have is the Lucio's and Yana. So that high ground will have to be pushed together. Although I say that the Winston does want to go up. Ones will immediately back right up, though, as he, again, cannot stay up there for very long. But the touch point does Restart, looking for a way in. But there's no ultimates to follow up. Effort does have an EMP, and MZ also has a Riptide. They're not going to need any of those, though, as 3 kills have already been found for BTRG. And with those eliminations comes, again, a successful defense, and Restart continue to look a little lost as far as how they want to approach this point this time around.
Struggling to really string it all together. They do have ultimates building, but so slowly, like it's so gradual that BTRG have near enough everything in the bank in case they need it. Restart having a Transcendence at most isn't going to save them from the onslaught that BTRG are about to unload onto them. And constantly we do see Deku maybe taking the attention of BTRG away from the front line, but no impact, no picks, no able way for Restart to come on through. 2 minutes wasted of their time. They still have less than 4, just about, but now they're going in deep and big ults used.
The EMP will be used as soon as the frontliners wanted to dive to the high ground, which will be enough to take down Ones almost immediately. The Tracer, though, for Restart is doing a pretty decent job of finding some distraction. Cloud will put out a pulse bomb and find Gudan, but will take down himself as well. But will it find enough value without that Ana being there? Restart want to continue to contest, but the Riptire will put an end to that very quickly. Halt will try to pull out one of our last offenders alive, but B6 will actually take down one with him. A little bit of value there, as there's a long way to go from the defensive spawn, but still 1 tick left, and Effort will have to back away. So with that comes numbers for Restart. The frontliners staying alive, the Primal Rage coming out at a good time, and Restart will take their 3rd point.
Really well done, considering that BTRG dedicated 4 ultimates to that. Restart dedicated what they had. They dedicated Transcendence, Pulse Bomb, and one's his Primal Rages. So far, the Primal Rages, other than that one Alicia Tower that just felt fed like 1,000 ult charge, have been able to get picks to a point that reminds me of like when, I'm not saying he's the new Gooseray by any stretch, but Gooseray was a really good main tank when it comes to Winston getting kills with Primal Rage, and for the most part that's what we've seen coming out of one. So that was the difference there, and Deku getting picks even without ult was just able to sort of chip in. Now he has EMP, he's going to be deadly.
It only finds the Orisa by the looks of it, though, and the rest of the team was just not there for a restart, so very little value. Now Cloud diving on in will catch a sound barrier on the way, but the overpower does come through, but the Bongo will have enough damage to keep restart off the point. So far, it looks like not so much. As a nice time, Rocket Punch will find a stray effort, so the Sombra going down will again allow Cloud to continue to pop off. Without that hack being there, there's a lot of free abilities that could be pushed into these defenders. Cloud still staying alive, wants to re-engage the high ground, looking for the backline. MZ trying to stay alive, will not pop the rally as of yet, needs to help out in the backline as much as possible, and will be able to help out with two, as Effort will find the killing blows, and that'll be enough for BTRG to hold this for a little bit longer.
That EMP was just a little bit too premature. When Restart were coming in, they had their attention sort of taken from them from Effort for a second. Because of that, we've now started to see Momda being stalled out a little bit. I just had to double check. Sometimes when you have like the initials of the teams in front of the names, you don't want to be caught out by like BTR Lige, right? You don't want to be like Glige because of the extra
Call him,
letter.
like,
So
Smomda.
always have to double check. Always have to double check. There's nothing wrong with that. But so far, Restart not looking in a bad position. But all of that time, that 6 minutes that they had, has been whittled down to have an extra 1 minute over BTRG to finish this map. So not currently looking great. They still have time to make this work, but they have a Meteor Strike. They have an EMP. Can they string all of this together to make it work?
Effort will pop the EMP first and foremost, and that'll be enough to take down two, so you can't imagine a scenario where Deco hits the EMP here, as the next extra little bit of cleanup does happen on top of the point, and that will actually go well for BTRG. They only use that, and it will give Reborn some time to farm up his Primal Rage again, but most importantly, they don't have the boost yet, do BTRG. 92% of the nano boost, so it will be back up for this next fight. Restart, on the other hand, they'll have just about 5 of 6 for this next contest. It'll look pretty decent for an honest effort at this potential point B.
They have a lot of support options on this defense. Restart not quite up to having Transcendence. Granted, B612 should be there by the time Deku has the EMP, but he's still just going to tease Fengmi in just a little bit. Nano boosted Reborn kind of gets lost out in the open, can't do as much as he may have hoped, but the pick onto ones might be enough. 35 seconds left on the clock. All of that time back is gone for Restart.
You have to reset right now for Restart. You cannot get picked out, and it looks like BTRG knows that. Reborn wants to push on forward. We'll think the better of it, because losing this Winston would spell potential disaster for what should be a for sure hold. But again, it will be 5 ultimates for Restart, only going into the Zenyatta Transcendence and potentially a Primal Rage. There will be a late EMP, so what will we see here? The EMP will start things off for Deku. What else will follow up? Can they find anything? No follow-up really whatsoever. Finally, ones will come in. The Meteor Strike also following up behind the Transcendence being used, popping literally everything but the self-destruct and the sound barrier. And meanwhile, Effort is able to come back with the EMP at the mode. Oh, but the sound barrier that was alive for Win-Win Q will still pop off, but there's just too much damage coming out for big time Regal Gaming, and it looks like they'll clean this one up and put what was a very interesting Horizon Lunar Colony to bed, and BTRG will win the set.
Interesting matchup. Maybe we sort of expected it to go a lot quicker than it did in previous games, but really well played from Restart, but it was theirs to lose. They were given an opportunity, an olive branch, so to speak, for BTRG, but BTRG weren't going to make the same mistake twice. That's the thing about like 2CP and Assault as a whole, is if you have the option to do it again, what would you change? And BTRG made sure that they were a little bit more waterproof. Not perfect, but a lot better than their first defense, that's for sure. I think Effort is just getting so much more worth with all of the heroes that he's playing. With Soldier, with Sombra, every EMP seemed to be perfectly timed. Whereas for Restart, the Sombra especially, a lot of those EMPs came in and were a bit too early, a bit out of position, didn't get as much as they were hoping for. Really seemed like the difference. How they were using that ultimate that can effectively be a team wipe when used in the right hands just wasn't working for Restart at all.
My big thing, though, you look back, if you're Restart, you go back, you rewatch some of these, and I think that if I'm Restart, you hate to lose games, obviously, but I think that you have a very clear path of what were we trying to do and what went wrong, or what could we do better, and I would almost prefer that more for Restart than having these really, really close fights where there's a million different things happening and you don't really know why you lost the fight. the dividends are pretty clear when it comes down to what's going wrong. We saw a couple instances of, again, that solo EMP onto an Orisa where you have two backliners which are just around the corner if you just peek a little bit wider. There's moments like that that you can see very descriptively and very very clearly. Words are escaping me at this hour, where you can actually find where you would have had more value. So, I mean, if you're Restart, this was a better showing. I think you're showing some growth, but at the same point, I think that the differences between the two teams are still pretty clear when it comes to the coordination that we're looking for.
It feels that BTRG to an extent are trying to up the tempo to a point that Restart can't keep up. And Restart are having to play at such a quick pace that even the smallest desync in the play, such as an EMP being used like half a second or a second earlier than it should have been,
Right.
is the difference. Because you can tell that Restart have the plans, they're making it somewhat work, but they're just out of coordination just by a little bit, which is probably the most frustrating aspect for them, at least, is that they have the right idea, but the complete wrong execution with how they go about it.
Yeah, and you take a look at some of the moments that, again, kind of spelled disaster, and it looked really strange initially because BTRG, again, was looking so solid, and all of a sudden there was like this weird funk as they had this really weird engagement in their first attack where nothing seemed to be really adding up, and finally they come back together. But this was, I think, a little bit out of the comfort zone that BTRG has found so far. Fortunately, they do find themselves that third map. We will see a fourth one here in the near future, and as we go on to that straight up escort style, I think, again, those coordination problems that we've been seeing from Restart and even flaws that we've seen so far in this last map at BTRG will be that much more pungent, I guess you could say, as you go on in. So we'll be back with the next map, the conclusion of our first day of week number 2, just after this. We'll go throw it to a quick little break, and map number 4, the escort map, will be up just after this.
No one knows we are further than you know. from the start that I'm not leaving without you. Said I'm not leaving without you.
It's been a long time.
Gravity, don't run away from me. Gravity, don't run away from me. Gravity, don't run away from me. Gravity.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got Route 66 to finish things off for the day. I hold shift. Ryan Central back with you once again. And I've taken the time, Ryan. Don't worry, I've collected myself. Words will start to flow more naturally this time. I do promise you that.
I don't think it's ever going to flow as well as some of the comps that BTRG are running. Like that is just
Hey,
like
nice
quick,
segue.
really. They took a bit of a blip on Horizon Lunar Colony. Does look, I think, that we're going to get another for Overwatch, but I think Restart have shown a little bit of promise in a group that they might be able to sneak a win, but I think a
Sure.
map win is very important for them too, considering that Alter Ego managed to get a map win too. So they want to stay at least equal going into the end of week 2 for them. So something that they need to bear in mind, it's not looking likely. I imagine morale is low, but they just need to try and sort of pipe up a loss. It was so close for them to take something, at least from Horizon, that I feel that they'll be very disappointed the fact that they didn't. In terms of defense, it does look like BTRG are going to be running a fairly standard dive again with Sombra and Genji, as they love that Genji composition. Restart yet to decide, but it looks like they're going potential tanks.
Yeah, and that's exactly the case. I'm excited to see BTRG pull out this more aggressive style defense. I think this fits along with the kind of the motif of how this game has gone so far. There's obviously a clear advantage when it comes down to BTRG, their understanding of how to play together as a team. And I think if you start to play these more dive-heavy defenses or offenses for that matter, you can really catch Restart off guard and make sure that they never have a chance to fully collect themselves, although Restart will come out with a little bit more of a swinging composition of their own, although they will not take the Hanzo, just only for the site, and then switch back over to the Zenyatta. So we are going to be seeing more of that 3-3 comp out of Restart as they try to push this payload, and an early dive into the high ground will actually force BTRG off. So not a bad start as far as setting up their own little bit of aggression here for Restart.
That's exactly why the Winston's used in this composition, and I think it's more of an all-purpose comp that you can run against stuff that isn't tanky goats. So big time Regal gaming just need to be a little bit careful. The Brigitta's going to come in with a CC with a stun, but Wands was not focusing the same target that we did see coming out of Restart's Brigitte. So like a bit of not so much a mistake, but Deku just maybe not going on the same target there. It was a bit of a struggle. BTRG sort of doing well to survive, to keep in this fight. Nobody's gone down just yet. They're just waiting for a chance to engage.
The boost will actually come out, though, from Gunan, and looking for a way to continue to move on forward. Effort will find the DMAC first and foremost, which will allow Reborn to come on in for essentially free, and that will be just the one ultimate used for BTRG for what looks to be a very successful push through. They'll find what will be a 4-for-0 trade, make that a 5-for-0 trade, nearly a full team wipe, and that will be enough to get BTRG even more efficiency in their ultimate economy. They've got essentially 4 ultimates ready to go for the next engagement.
Yeah, GMC managing to farm up a big Dragon Blade. Doesn't have the Nano Boost to go with it, but Gudan is fairly close to having another one after just using it on Reborn. I think we're starting to see Restart not playing with a sense of urgency, which is a problem with this comp. They were quite happy to just move the payload, but BTRG could take their time to position themselves, make sure all their cooldowns were up and running. But straight away, Gudan is taken out. This might be a good opportunity for Restart to go into this fight. BTRG have so many ultimates.
Effort looked like he wanted to pull the trigger on an EMP, but that was before Dugan got taken out, and with that comes just a sound barrier to sustain this, and MZ will actually pull the trigger on his blade, even though he did not have that nano ready to go behind it, so the naked blade will find absolutely nothing, and that's kind of a question mark trigger for me. Restart will actually continue to push the payload forward.
And you can see Wands is trying to take space, trying to push back BTRG a little bit. EMP does come out, but the sound barrier responds. It didn't actually catch Win-Win Q at all, so a good push can stay alive, but Wands does go down.
And a nice Graviton Surge used in the face of what would have been a really pretty nicely timed Primal Rage, but Reborn doesn't find any value there either, so BTRG whiffing on a couple of really crucial ultimates. You mentioned the EMP, not quite finding the Lucio for the sound barrier. Still BTRG have the numbers, and they'll be able to turn this one back on its head, but man, it has been a little bit sloppy for BTRG. They'll hold this one by the skin of their teeth, as it was nearly that checkpoint A push through, but Restart will have a chance to recontest with 4 ultimates essentially for them.
Yeah, effort's been on clear up so far, managing to get the picks, and is now in the back line, causing a first. Restart do have some ultimates online. Transcendence coming up fairly soon. No EP just yet, but having that ready for this Dragon Blade, you can see that GMZ is priming himself to find a position. Now that they've both got their ultimates, it's a case on who's going to pull it first.
A lot of damage already found the Primal Rage Force. The blade will come back in from overhead, but the Transcendence will be better. And again, MZ will find 0 value out of his second blade this time around. Effort very close to the EMP. Can he find the last bit of damage needed to grab it? It would be huge if he can get the EMP to go off with a self-destruct. The EMP will come down first and foremost, and that will be enough for DMAC. Self-destruct will be popped for 2. So BTRG able to find some efficacy finally out of their ultimates. That'll be enough for what will likely be a full team wipe as soon as they can take Deku and Cloud down. And yeah, a little bit of wave to the crowd from Lijiang. And with only 8 seconds left, I don't know if anyone's going to even have the chance to touch this. Winston will give it a go, but I don't know if one's
He's got to leap in. He's got to do it.
He hits it just in the nick of time, but what can they use to keep him up is the biggest question. Cloud needs to come back for this Graviton Surge. Zool would be nice if he could get himself to create some space, but with Win-Win going down already, it will be a Primal Rage to keep the Brigida away, and she might just take a small dive. The Graviton Surge popped up with a self-destruct, but there won't be any value there besides just using the cooldowns because they're there. Restart trying to keep themselves on payload point, but BTRG just have too many numbers, and of course the self-destruct to help dumb this one away a little bit longer, and that will likely be it. MZ finally getting a couple of kills with this blade, but we're not going to count that one as full value, Ryan. It still didn't look so great.
Yeah, BTRG were looking in a good position. I think once the fight goes their way, then it sets up the Sombra and the Genji to just clean up afterwards. GMC and Effort being able to just get those picks after the first engagement happened. So really is a question mark over some players, I suppose, for Restart, just struggling to get picks, decisive ones, at least fairly quickly. Like, they looked so ahead in some of those team engagements, but weren't able to clear up in the same fashion that BTRG can. And I feel like that's the difference of GMZ and Effort, just so good at, okay, we're winning this engagement with more people. They can make sure that they decisively win that fight. Instead of Restart that can be a bit iffy and just timing can often take too long to get it. Going to sort of check out another part of Route 66, apparently didn't realize that this this camera could go this far.
I didn't. That's got to be the edge of the box right there. It has to be. Looks like we're not going to find out if it's going to go any further. Speaking of going any further, though, Restart need to make sure that payload really doesn't go anywhere. And I know we're all over the segues today, aren't we? I mean, just between these small little moments, we're knocking it out of the park.
Well, I mean, the beauty here is that we spoke about outside the box. BTRG strategies are always thinking outside of the box. So it's a keen, two very different teams. I appreciate what Restart have been trying to do. They've been trying to play very meta comps and see if they can get it to work. They've had some modicum of success, I suppose, but not enough really to really shake Big Time Regal Gaming. Any of the times that Restart been able to take a point and really contest BTRG. It feels it was more of a mistake from BTRG's perspective. They're coming out with effort on the Widowmaker, so this should be a nice fireworky finish to Route 66 and the rest of these champions.
Oh, get turned on, Deku. My goodness, had the angle on him, but not on Effort's watch. Will turn around and pop the quick heady, and now it's going to be up to MZ to find some efficacy in the back line as he's got a couple of shurikens to land into some favorable targets, which will provide some extra space for Effort, which you can see is perched up on the left-hand side. The frontliners for BTRG kind of hesitant to push forward as the payload still has quite a way to go before it can match to the distance, and goodness, the Spider-Man moves coming out of Effort as well. Just putting this one to bed. You asked for fireworks, Ryan. We're getting them.
He just makes it look so easy. Again, jumping up into the air, mostly to scout out who's around, but already this payload is like less than 10 meters away from its finish. BTRG are sort of in control, trying to keep an eye on the spot. Stagger's coming out, Sombra having to, but is looking to go down. This might be it already.
Looks like it very well could be. Sliced in midair is the Lucio, who's not able to touch, and that will spell out the rest of this set. BTRG looking convincing. You got to give props to Restart. That's a pretty high execution threshold defensively, especially going up against their opponent that they were going up against. They gave it a go. It just did not quite line up the way they wanted to, Ryan.
I feel like they just ran out of steam. I think that's kind of, they put so much effort into trying to go even on Horizon, were given a bone to sort of chase, but ultimately led them not very far. I think, you know, we did see the analyst said it was going to be tough for them. Not impossible, but really difficult. BTRG looked a bit iffy in some instances, but overall the much better side. So seeing a 4-0 isn't all that surprising.
Not quite surprising at all. It was a day of a lot of sweeps. Brooms were out, spring cleaning come early. And well, we'll bring back some of the favorite people of ours to clean up the rest of the day. Back to Geo at the desk to break down the end.
Guys, it ended up happening. We had another 4-0 BTRG, so commiserations to Restart. But the first thing that I want to talk about going into this latter half of this series is BTRG showed really well how much they can adapt. They didn't, look so hot on Horizon Lunar Colony for a little while, and when it came back around to the second round, they showed that they had learned. How have they managed to do this? Like, where have they learned this from?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily them learning a specific strategy so much. It was the kind of story of adaptation in this game where Restart, like, they had a couple good moments where they seemed to pick up steam, and then BTRG would pivot.
Yeah.
They would pivot on to like a new pick or some sort of like a repositioning of resources, and Restart just never had the answers for it. Whether it was on Numbani with the ultimate charge, the ultimate usage, it just kept happening throughout the series. They would kind of get steam and they would just fall flat and kind of be lapped in their kind of adaptation, where BTRG, if and when they were pressured, they always had some sort of solution. They would change it up, try something different. You bring in MZ and he looked quite nice.
Yeah.
Go on, Vals, were you gonna?
Restart constantly had a really good plan A, and when they could stick to the plan A, like we saw on Horizon Lunar Colony when they finished with a 6-minute 14 time bank, they looked great. But BTRG are the masters of adaptation and coming up with new strategies. And the moment BTRG, as Volimel said, pivoted onto something else, Restart suddenly looked lost. They couldn't figure out how to move on to a plan B, plan C. I'm not even sure half the time they had a plan B. They were just stuck in their ways on, this is what we like to run on this map. And if that doesn't work,
I mean, Val's one person that we do have to give some credit to on the side of Restart is B612. And we were saying at the beginning, maybe this could be the start of a redemption story for him, but he actually looked like he was popping off.
Yeah, B612, even if he's not always the strongest flex bot in the world, he's at least showcasing some of what got him picked up to Overwatch League in the first place. He had a great game today, constantly getting some picks, almost in the vein of Bunky Jaeger, who we saw in the previous match, just constantly getting these cross-map volleys, like in the very first map where he picked a Farah out of the air. Not even Jonak can do that consistently. Even if these can be fluky picks, he's consistently getting these fluky picks, and it's setting Restart into pretty good positions going into some of these fights. They just need to actually be able to capitalize on it more effectively.
So, I mean, I know we've said how BTRG they managed to adapt really quickly on Horizon Lunar Colony to keep the map for themselves in the end, but when Restart did like they were outplaying BTRG, what were they doing that allowed them to do that?
That first push was just really sloppy. I'm not even too sure why Gundam was on the low ground. That's how they broke open the point. They kind of come in, they snipe the Ana with the Brigida, and where's your healing then? It doesn't matter. They can take the point control. They did so, and it forced the high ground centric composition from BTRG to come to the low ground. It was just kind of this very strange positioning error that happened with them in their backline, which tend to be actually quite nice. But I think that cracked open the map for them. It gave them a lot of momentum. Like you saw them rotate through, go to point B, snowball really hard, get that 6 minute and 12-second time bank, or however long it was. It was this massive time bank. Sadly, they just couldn't ride that kind of momentum into a map victory, which would have been fabulous when it comes to the standings. Restart's probably basically going to be playing spoiler here. I don't know. We'll have to see, and it's anybody's game, as they say, but, playoffs are looking a little bit dim. So, taking a map off of people could play a little bit of spoiler there. But when it came to BTRG misplaying, it was just, a couple missteps, mispositions. But other than that, it's been a pretty clean game from them.
I mean, we saw Cloud on the side of Restart come out with a number of different heroes during this series, but what did you think of his Doomfist that he was playing on Horizon Lunar Colony?
I think that Doomfist swap is just a prime example of what I was talking about earlier, in that they have a really solid plan A, but as soon as they have to come up with something else, they can never quite execute. Cloud maybe occasionally found a couple picks. There was a really nice combo where the self-struct came out. It forced effort onto someone to hide behind an Orisa shield, and that was just easy pickings for Cloud to pick off. But overall, the Doomfist was really struggling to find impact. He couldn't get his ability combos off properly, couldn't leave mobility in the back in reserves to escape, dumping all his abilities to secure to pick and then getting picked himself, or trying to hold a mobility in reserve, not actually capitalizing, and then leaving the fight without really accomplishing anything. Maybe that wasn't the pick, but again, it comes down to Restart didn't know how to play anything better in that scenario because they couldn't figure out how to adapt to what BTRG is throwing at them. They need to be a little bit better at having these backup plans. When plan A starts falling through, what can you swap onto that you know is actually going to work?
BTRG were putting a lot of pressure onto Restart when on Route 66 when they were doing their own attack. Who was it on that team who was so integral to being able to do that?
I mean, it's easy, you saw him. He was popping off all game long. It's your boy Effort just going crazy on the hit scan. He's proven to be quite a talent. I'm really excited to see what happens with him. I've got to assume this is kind of catching the eye of some potential scouts out there. But Effort has done really well. But I think the unsung hero for BTRG has been their flex tank Liga. I can't stress enough how important that role is in this metagame. We're seeing, it start to change a little bit. The metagame of specifically Flex Tanks is changing, where it's not just a diva-centric game anymore. You also have to pepper in that Zarya every once in a while. And he's looked pretty successful on it so far. I'm excited to kind of see him progress throughout the stages. We'll have to see what happens with him in playoffs. But for the most part, I think he's been the kind of glue member of this team. Really, has a lot of synergy with a lot of people. It reads like there's communication, and that's really, really important.
You're a bit tentative at first, both of you, but do you think BTRG going forward can bring back the former glory of the Moss 7 Club?
Definitely. Well, they might even be able to succeed it. They are
Yeah.
kind of reining in a little bit. They don't have the same wackiness that Moss 7 used to have, but the influence of the roots are still there, and it's much more refined now. Moss 7 Club last season did win their group, but that was kind of more someone had to win that group, and Moss 7 Club managed to take it with a 3-2 match score. This version of BTRG, it's much more refined, especially with players like Liga standing to the forefront on the soft tank role, Effort putting in really good performances on the Widowmaker. They might win Group B this season, because they deserve to win Group B. With some question marks about LGD, Flag Gaming still on the uprising, BTRG might be the strongest team in this group right now for good reason.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And I'm excited to see how they progress throughout the season because we weren't so sure what was going to happen at the start. But we are going to have to wait until next week to see once again the teams that played today play different teams. But you won't have to wait until next week to see more Contenders China because it will be coming back to you tomorrow right here on this channel. So it's going to be goodbye from us today. I've been your host, Gio. We've been joined by our casters, Rich Rad Kenobi, I Hold Shift, and Ryan Central. And of course, V Squared, the analyst, Mel and Vowels. But thank you as ever for joining us today on Contenders China, and we will see you tomorrow.